welcome to the 2019-20 Student Council. For those of you who have not been part of the council before, I'm going to give you a real brief history. Kirsten is passing a sheet for your email address. And here's how this works. So by default, if you are a junior hire or a senior hire, i.e. you are in grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12, you are by default in the student council. Now,
Oh man.
If I was just a grade lower.
Barry. No, the point is, there are a couple reasons why we have the student council. And one of the main reasons that we have the student council is to give you guys at least some opportunity to experience collaborative, collective working together for a particular goal. Okay? One of the blessings of living in the country that we live in, and in others I suppose as well, but that we have an opportunity to be participatory, i.e. be involved to make something happen. So there are certain goals that we have for you guys and that you can have for yourself as a council, certain objectives to try to accomplish, and you guys work together to make it happen. Some are quote unquote mandatory and others are not necessarily mandatory. There if you want to make it happen. And even some of the mandatory ones are only going to happen if there's enough involvement. So just so you know, you're not the only ones in the council that I know who are going to be active. The Cox family, Chastity, and I think Charity and Mercy will all be, I think, participating this year as well. And so you'll have at least 3 more real active members. And who knows, you might be able to pull in a few other people too. And the other thing is that just because you're not always here doesn't mean that you can't in some way participate. So let me give you what the main objectives of the council are, at least the things that you guys are kind of doing. There basically are 2 main events that you guys have on your radar. One is graduation, and the other is senior class trip. Now, some of you are saying, I don't fit in either of those. I'm not graduating, I'm not a senior. And that's okay. Because, for one thing, this could just as well be that, just a class trip. Because our classes have tended to be smaller, and the amount of seniors involved has been small, we have been able to do some larger student council, like broader, I should say, just beyond seniors. So earlier this year, we did 1 trip to DC, a day trip to DC. But I know that I think some of the, there's a good possibility you can maybe put something together even beyond that. But bottom line, graduation, the student council has been responsible for helping cover the costs of graduation. And thankfully, we've been able to have graduation here the last couple years, and that's cut down on the expenses a pretty good big deal because we don't charge the class for using the facility. So those are the 2 priorities, is graduation and the senior class. So how do you do that? You do that by fundraising. Now, most of you have done that, are aware of that sort of thing. Now, let's see, so as far as seniors, Tim, you're a senior this year. I'd have to go back and look at my list to know who else is a senior this year. We do have a couple others and potentially some others. So anyway, yeah, you're not a senior, sorry. Anyway, and the other thing is a class trip. So if you guys want to do a class trip together, you're helping doing fundraising for that. Now, along the way, there might be other things that you're interested in doing too. And just so you know, you do have already some money in the pot that has been left over from previous fundraising efforts. If I'm not mistaken, you have somewhere in the neighborhood of about $620 already in the pot. The big class trip that has been just historically one that has been open to juniors and seniors. So if you're a junior or a senior, which Ariana, you're a junior, Kirsten's a junior, I know Chasty's a junior. You a junior, Isaiah?
Whatever 10th grade is.
Okay, so you're not quite your sophomore.
Sophomore.
But bottom line is that at the end of the year in May, historically, there's been a trip to a place called the Wilds, which is an awesome, awesome camp. Sounds like we got some campers here. Really, really cool place, and a lot of Wellspring classes have gone and done that trip, and they're open to having juniors come along as well as seniors on that trip. So that is fairly expensive. I mean, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $250 per student, and then you have at least 2 chaperones, one female, one male chaperone go down with you. So, and that's I think a little bit less. But anyway, in the grand scheme of things, for whatever it is you're getting down there, that's not bad at all, because you get the whole, it's like 5 days, and it covers what you're doing and all that. So bottom line is that's something that you can be thinking about and considering, and amongst yourselves, and you don't have to do that. You'll see what kind of interest you've got as a group. If you want to make that happen specifically amongst the juniors and the seniors. Yes, Mr. Krugar.
Where is the Wilds located?
Wilds is located in South Carolina.
Thank you.
So it's a bit of a hike, but that's always been included in the, so that's the other thing that you'd have to cover the cost of is the gas to get down there. Now, we've always worked out the transportation in terms of a driver and that, but
Does the class pay for the chaperones?
yes. Yep. So,
I don't have to worry about this because
okay, now here's the deal. Other objectives of the student council are you may have other things that you want to be involved with. And any money, again, just like you have leftover money right now from previous fundraising efforts, you know, any fundraising that you're doing, you're likely going to benefit from at some point because you're keeping money in the pot for the future. And again, you might want to do some other things too. If you want to do another day trip somewhere, you could certainly work on that and that sort of thing. So, so those are kind of some of the objectives that we have. As far as the other purposes of it, we have our objective for having the student council is again to have you guys experience the process of trying to make something happen, and also our goal has been to have some events during the year where we create an opportunity for you guys to get together and not only have some fellowship time, but also have some interactive time with the Wellspring staff. We've done something called a Student Council Forum Day, where we've had members of the Students Council get together and talk about an issue that's facing the culture, or something that you're interested in wanting to actually see some action taken on, and coming at it from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective. We didn't end up having one last year, but the first year we did it, we actually had we talked about child abuse, and it was really good. It was a really great time. We basically took a morning and we had a process that everybody went through in terms of just discussing it and discussing what the problem was, discussing ideas of how to address the problem from a biblical and a practical perspective. And then the end result was a little manifesto, a declaration of, okay, this is what we think should happen to address this particular issue in our culture. So you know, the student council is intended for those kind of activities. You always have the opportunity to get together here at workshop. That's where you're primarily going to be brainstorming things like fundraising, and so on. And there are also committees on you guys are pretty small that we've never really had a lot of activity so far in the last couple of years. And the subcommittees, but the senior class, so Tim, you and your compatriots are gonna have to actually do some dialoguing about, you know, what you want graduation to look like and those sorts of things. Now, the main thing that's gonna be, you're gonna have a takeaway from today is you have to choose your officers. There's gonna be an election. The election's not gonna be today because not everybody I know who's gonna be actively participating is here, but I think what we're gonna end up doing is doing a vote. Probably do a vote. I haven't decided yet. We'll either do the vote by email in between workshops so that officers are placed by the time you guys get together next month, or we just will have an election next month. So I'll think some more about it. But so here's what I want you guys to do today. Yes, Barry?
Can I run for office?
Yeah?
I'll go for vice president.
Okay, well let me clarify that. Sorry.
I'll go for vice president.
So I do have one limitation. The president and vice president, those positions should be held by a senior high student. Huh?
I'll go for vice president.
Well, the secretary and treasurer are still open.
He said should be.
Okay. See, this is
I'm not secretary.
just
I'm the treasurer.
just remember, Barry. You just gotta plan out your political future. You know,
What if
start low, work your way up, right?
What if nobody wants to be vice president?
Well, I suppose that's a possibility.
Wait, so it's possible to not, like, so let's say you get votes, but you don't wanna do it. You're not forced to be in that position.
What if
Possibly.
somebody doesn't want to do
That's
it and I
a
want to do it?
dictatorship.
Possibly.
Shouldn't.
That's why this is a very interesting structure,
Is
because
this a dictatorship?
yeah, pretty much.
Mr. Gold.
What if,
We can override just about anything.
what if Timmy wants to be voted a vice president, but he doesn't
Okay.
want to?
So I wanna be.
You guys are jumping the gun. Just listen.
You can just
Just listen. Okay, hold your horses. All right, here's what I want you guys to do today. I want you guys to tear off one of those pieces of paper. And if I had been thinking about this, I would have. Actually, no. No. I'm sorry. I changed my mind. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to, so Kirsten, why don't you go ahead and write 4 categories on that piece of paper and leave room for 4 or 5 names.
like what?
So write president,
Oh,
because they're 4 officer positions. President,
Nobody vote for Timmy.
vice president,
Too much to do this year.
secretary, and treasurer.
Can you go down for 2?
Huh?
Can you write your name down for 2? You just one.
Well, let me finish explaining,
So if one gets.
and I will answer your questions. You guys are a tough group. I like that. It's great. Got a lot of newspaper reporters in here. All right, so 4 positions. All right, president is what you would expect. The president is the person who's going to be expected to take the leadership of making something happen. Now, here's the deal. Even if you're president, I don't expect you necessarily to do everything. I expect you to take leadership and find out what needs to happen and to help other people know how they can make those things happen, okay? But it is obviously the chief responsibility. Preferentially, it's always been nice when it's been a senior, because the senior also is involved with the graduation stuff and planning, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a senior. I'm open to it being a senior high student. I would probably say I would prefer it to be a junior high, or I'm sorry, to be an 11th or 12th grader, so a junior or a senior. Vice president, that position has looked different depending on the situation. The last couple of years, the person who was elected president 2 years ago, because of her schedule, was not able to be at workshops. So even though she wasn't here, she did a lot of behind the scene things, and the vice president ended up being the primary spokesperson here at the workshop. So they worked pretty well together that way. They worked as a pretty good team to make those sorts of things happen, whatever. okay? So the vice president works the closest with the president to try to make things happen. So it's as active or as inactive as they choose, but they're primarily making it, they're kind of the president's right-hand man or woman, if you prefer. And then the secretary, their primary responsibility is to take notes at student council meetings and try to make sure that everybody's in the loop on what's going on, and especially since we have a fair amount of people who actually listen to this via live stream, they make sure that those folks are getting the information, if they're, just keep people in the loop. And Kirsten, you were our secretary last year, so you want anything to add to what you feel the position? Okay, all right. So that's basically that, and then the treasurer works with me, and this is something I am still trying to work better at, helping the treasurer be a little more in the driver's seat. But just they know how much money that has been raised, and are also the person who kind of is keeping tabs on what the goals need to be and that sort of thing. So it doesn't mean you absolutely that you're necessarily the person who's getting the money. You're not actually handling the money. You're not having to go to the bank if that kind of thing concerns you, or if you want it to concern you. Because of the setup right now, you're mainly working with me. I'm keeping you in the loop, and then you're keeping the student council in the loop, and that sort of thing. So here's what I want to have happen today. Is each of you go ahead and write down. You can put your name down as a nominee, or you can nominate somebody. You can nominate somebody who's not here. If you know that they're in the student council. You know what? I'll be right back. I have an idea. I've done this before.
Nominate me for vice president.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
You said you can nominate somebody.
Yeah, you can't be vice president.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
You said that you prefer not to. Here,
Alright, so here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you who are the student council members this year.
Could you write their names on the board possibly?
Well, that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to circulate this list.
Oh, even better.
But at least,
Mr.
yes.
Should the people that are gonna be in those roles have be here or whatever,
Well,
be here the most?
Here's the answer to that. It depends. Like I said, our president 2 years ago could not be here at workshop. But that doesn't mean that she wasn't involved. She was. She especially was involved in helping with the senior class and graduation. So you can still make the effort even if you can't always be here. But it's definitely a plus if you can be here. Of course, we have the live stream and people can engage that way too. All right, so your seniors are Ethan Ahern, Prudence Cox, Timothy Miskiven, Austin Schott, Miriam Shell. Your sister want to be a student council president, Ruth?
That wouldn't work very well.
Might be a little awkward being in Mongolia, but. And Aaron Smalley, so some of you may or may not. Oh, and Isaac Valdez from the Eastern Shore. Your juniors are Chastity Cox, Benjamin Floyd, and Emma Floyd. They're distanced, they're not going to be here. Matthew McCullough, Luke Payton, Kirsten Schroyer, Joseph Kaspersky, and Krister Lindegren. And some of these people you may not know, and some of them are not going to be that much involved. Oh, Hannah Matthews is also a senior this year. Your sophomores are Esther Barr, Isaac Basor, Charity Cox, Emma Fink, Natalie Macri, Hannah Matthews, Isaiah Miskimen, Sarah Rathert, Sarah Smalley, and Duran Thomas. And your freshmen are Nolan Ahern, Joshua Cox, Matthew Skiles, and Timothy Valdez. And your junior high students are Mercy Cox, Adia Grubbs, Seth Schott, Tyson Truccanelli, Jonathan Kaspersky, Landon Ahern, Kent Grubbs, Leanza Jones, Barry Muskimen, Caden Prado, Bethany Rathberg, Morning Shell, Bethlyn Stolfitz, and Damon Truccanelli. So here's the deal. What I don't want you to do, I don't want you to write down a name that you have no idea who that person is. Because that's just mean.
I have no clue who any of them.
What I want you to do, and this is the only reason I'm doing this, is if you know the person and you know, at least have an idea that they would potentially, like you've seen them here at student council before, or you know who they are, you go ahead and write them down. Now here's the last thing, and then we'll get your question. I don't remember who. Tim, you asked the question. If you get nominated and then you get elected, because I'm not going to stop anybody from being nominated. What I'll probably do is if you got nominated, I'll put you on the ballot. And then people will vote for you or not vote for you. If you get voted and you absolutely do not want to take the job, then I'll
Like,
give.
we also can't, like, I don't think I can, at least for president or vice president.
Right, yeah. For whatever reason, if you want to decline the office, then we'll give it to the runner-up. So,
That sounds
and
good.
hopefully that will take pressure off, unless everybody just advocates and, you know,
I don't wanna-
junior high takes control of the student council. I might have to come in and disassemble parliament. What did they call that back in the days? Close the House of Burgesses.
I'm gonna try to close my window of being best.
That's right, Barry. Yeah, I'm gonna thwart your conspiracy right here. It's all part of our Barry. Don't give away our plan.
Or
That's right. Under the table.
Yes, Mr. Gruber.
Okay, just wondering now, Joel, is Ariana on the junior list?
I'm sorry. Yes, Aria, you were 11th grade. So yes, your name could be in the running. And preferentially, you know, do try to go with the people that are here, or you know who probably will be here. So people who are likely to be here again are the Coxes, Charity, Chastity, Mercy. Who else did I say on here? Oh, so like Prudence and Josh have also been involved in the past, so they might be people to do.
Is Josh in college now?
Josh Cox?
Or am I thinking someone else?
Um,
Oh, Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, who was our president last year, he graduated.
He
last
just
year.
graduated.
He's back in college. Yes, Isaiah.
Down president.
Shouldn't the person, whoever is in the offices, have access to the whatever, like the computer or whatever? Because some of us do not have access. To any
Access
device.
to a computer.
If like the president or the
Right.
secretary, they need to communicate somehow.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you do not personally have contact or you don't have a personal email or something like that that people can get to you by, then by all means, please use your parents and talk with your parents and say, hey, can you please tell me when I've gotten an email about the student council so that we're kept in the loop. You know, we've certainly had students who've done that. And that's totally fine. I mean, the main idea is just knowing what's going on, and if there's an event that you want to participate in or should participate in, then you want to be in it, so. All right, so again, just kind of the recap. Primary thing you're trying to focus on is two things. One, the senior class in particular, and it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seniors, Tim. And with the exception of the one in Mongolia, you think, hey Ruth,
Yes.
you think your sister might come come for graduating?
I doubt it.
I don't know,
think
maybe
she
you
would
maybe
really-
you can convince her. It's
They wanna
such a
spend
wonderful, once in a lifetime.
$1,600
experience.
to come here for a day
We are
and go
we
back.
are worth it. We are worth $1,006. Look at these guys. I mean, this is.
We can put that on one of our priorities.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you can raise a lot of money for
bring
graduation.
Miriam here. Anyway, and so Tim actually. Well, actually, no. I'm not gonna put that on you yet because you probably will happen is if a senior gets elected to the presidency. Generally, that default position goes to also being president of the senior committee.
And what if that person doesn't want to be?
Huh? What?
So what if that person doesn't want to be president?
And you make them.
Well, I'm saying if there's someone who's run for president and got elected, they'll be, anyway, all I'm saying is that you just have an idea, Tim, because you're the one senior who's here, of what's going on and who's involved and all that. Okay. So, what, Kirsten? Well, I don't know. I thought I'd give a lecture on, like, the first Republic of Rome. I thought maybe you guys would like to hear that.
Is food involved?
Yeah.
Well, I think the Romans usually had food involved. A lot of times.
Romans were known for their lavish feasts.
That's right. Okay, so go ahead and we don't have to do it on camera, but well, go ahead and circulate the.
We already did.
I didn't write anything.
Cheat too.
We don't have
Yeah.
to.
Oh yeah, we have to turn off the paper. We have to turn off the camera.
They
So
cannot
to turn off the
see.
camera. Okay, well I'll do it. We'll do it. But before you leave today, you go ahead. I'm gonna leave the list here, and you can look at the list. And then
I'm so mad because someone already nominated me for president. I feel like they're just doing it to get them
just remember again, if you don't want it, you don't have to take it. I won't make you. So.
That's good.
All right, just a couple last things. I always do this with our student council just because it's fun. But do you guys know who these people are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Benjamin Franklin, and that's some weird guy.
Johnson, Adams,
Weird guy.
He
Adams.
looks like a poet.
Let me just double check.
Why does
Madison.
why does he
I
have
think it's
a,
Madison, James Madison.
why does Benjamin Franklin have like a right through his forehead?
Have a what?
A text right through his forehead.
I don't know.
Somebody must not like him.
Somebody thought he'd appreciate that. Maybe he was in pain or something.
People, what is that like? You're like,
Yeah, so judgmental. Why are you sitting like that?
Man, I'm gonna have to.
at least I don't.
I'm gonna have to look up who that is again.
You don't know.
That's really bad.
What do you think?
It's been a couple of years, but I'll make the point anyway. All right, listen up. Okay, so tell me what you know about Benjamin Franklin. What is he most famous for?
Making
Light
glasses,
bulb.
making the buy glasses.
Yes, light bulb.
Discovering electricity.
Okay.
Hiding electricity experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Being Benjamin Franklin.
He did the first fire department.
On the
Oh,
money.
you could. That's
No.
What?
He
First
is
fire
famous for
department,
yes.
being-
That's for being. What?
First fire department.
Yep.
Was
Okay.
one of the first newspaper publishers too.
Yep.
And the first clock.
Okay. Anybody know what two documents he signed that were kind of important?
The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
Very good. So, anybody want to take a guess at how old he was when he signed the Constitution?
67.
84.
That's right. Yeah.
I have no clue. I just guessed.
No, he was in his early 80s.
Oh, they believe, yeah.
Oh,
So
he
just-
was last-
Just stop for a minute.
He's also an ambassador to France.
Oh, that's
Yeah, okay, but just, I'm homing in on the Constitution issue. So he's one of about 8 people who signed both the Declaration and the Constitution. So in case you didn't know or forgot, those documents were separated by, let's see, 1776, 1787, so 12 years. This guy,
Is that James Madison?
no, I wanted to say his name was William Randolph, but that's not quite right. So I'll have to get you his name. But he was the youngest signer of the Constitution,
He looks young.
and I believe he was in his 20s when he signed. So,
Really?
yes, Kirsten.
That would be John
Yes.
Carroll.
Could been.
He's the oldest and he's the youngest.
That's right. So why am I pointing that out? There was at least a 60-year gap between these two men.
Yeah.
So that means that could be.
Okay. So
I mean.
okay. So let's think about that for a minute. A 60-year gap. Okay. That means that Benjamin Franklin was around 60 when he was born. Okay. So okay. Point being.
You blew my mind, Mr. Joel.
Okay. Here's the deal.
Age is no limitation.
Except
One-
for dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's not go down that route. Okay, bottom line is one of the reasons we wanted to start the student council or wanted to continue to keep it going is because there is an attitude both amongst young people and older people and middle-aged people and all that sorts of things that you only work with peers or people in your own generation. And there's some understanding, of course, of that. The things that you do, where you work, and so on, you tend to work with people who are your same age. However, historically, if you look at things like the Constitution, here you have a man who was at the very beginning of his life, early in his career, and a man at the very end of his career, and they worked together to form one of the greatest documents, one of the most greatest political structures in the history of the world. And they both brought stuff to the table. Okay? You had the wisdom of Benjamin Franklin with the inspiration and vision for people like him, which I can't remember his name right now. But there is a partnership. There is something that you gain from people who are older than you and people who are younger than you. And one of the reasons why the student council includes both seniors and junior hires is because we wanted, first of all, for you guys to have an understanding that, just because some of your younger peers are just at the beginning of some of their high school adventure doesn't mean they don't have good ideas and input. And yes, Barry, I'm not opposed to having people potentially hold office if they are in junior high. I just feel like because of the nature of the presidency and vice presidency, it's still good to have a high school student do it because they have a little more experience, and there's something to be said for experience. But bottom line, I want that to work, and then collectively, working with people like me and with Mr. Cox and others who are a little bit older. I'm a little bit older, a little more down the road than you, and Mr. Cox is a little further down the road than me, and we could continue on. But the bottom line is that there's a partnership there. There's a working together where you benefit from, we benefit from guys like you and your ideas, bringing fresh perspectives and new inspiration to what we've been doing, and we can, also bring some experience and guidance and all that. So anyway, that's what we have them up there as a reminder that, age, the Bible, Paul told Timothy not to let people look down on him because he was young. And of course the scripture is full of admonitions that young people make sure you respect your elders. So it works both ways. Everybody has something to bring to the table, and it's true if you look at Congress today, it's still the same age diversions. You still have people who have been there for a long time and people who have not been there very long, and there are pros and cons to that, and even in the most extreme examples, you still see a tempering, a balance. People who have new ideas and people who need fresh ideas. So, all right, so everybody get a chance to sign the thing, or make sure you nominate, or if you want to think about it and email me later. Oh, so that's the other thing. Put your email down if you haven't already, and
I'll get mine to you later.
I
do not.
I think that's about it. So Ruth, we can dismiss. Anybody who's watching on live stream, you can email me any questions or send your email address in, and I'll make sure that we get things circulated. So thank you everybody for participating, and next workshop will be our next thing.